In the previous video, we saw how you can set attributes of HTML elements in order to affect the contents of the page. You can also create new nodes that change the structure of the page. So for example, we've seen create element before, like document.create element li is going to create a new HTML element with the tag name li. Let's go ahead and store that. So an item is a new li node. And then I can set attributes. So an item dot class name is interesting item. And then an item dot inner text is sixth. And then finally document dot get elements by tag name ul, the first one, and we'll go ahead and append child and item. So here's my interesting item, but it's not an important item, so let's go ahead and fix that. So an item dot class name is important item, and it lights up bold. Now, I've been using inner text to set the inner text property of this li tag, but really what this is doing is it's creating a node inside of the li. So if I look at an item dot child nodes, I see that there's actually an HTML collection with a text node inside of it. So another way of doing what I've just done is by creating a text node and appending that to the list item. So another item is an li, and another item dot class name is important item. And then this time I'm going to set var text to be document.create text element seventh. Create text node seventh. So now text is a text node, console.dir text. Here I can see that it's actually a text node, not just a piece of text, not just a string. And just as before, I can say another item dot append child text. So now if I look at another item, I see that it has the text inner text set. It's actually a text node, which is a child of the li. So basically in your DOM tree, you're going to have HTML elements and you're going to have text nodes. And one of the things that's important to know when you're walking through the tree is whether a particular node is an HTML element or a text node. And so you can find that out pretty easily. So each node, like another item, has a node type property. So node type for another item is 1. Node type for text is 3. So what do these numbers mean? Well, if you look at the node class, there's a bunch of different node types. So there's an attribute node, a CData section node, a comment node, document fragment, document node, and so on. Element node is actually HTML element. And if you look at the value of this element node, it's 1, which matches another item.node type. The other type that's important here is text node, which is 3. So if you want to check whether a particular node is an HTML element or a text node, you can say basically, um, let's say another item equal another item dot node type equal HTML, I'm sorry, node dot element node. So that's going to return true if it's HTML element, and it's going to return false otherwise. So for example, text.nodeType is not equal node.element node. On the other hand, text.nodeType equal node.text node is true, while another item.nodeType equal node.text node is false. So now that you know what type of node you're dealing with, you need to know how to insert it into an existing document. So I'm going to start with this results box, and let's say I want to duplicate this unordered list inside of the results box. Well, at the top level, I want to have an unordered list. So unordered list is document.create element UL. And then to add this to the document, there's two ways of doing it. I can either use append child, which will add it to all of the add it to the list of all of the elements under a particular node, or I can use insert before if I want to add it to the middle of the list of elements. So I'm going to go ahead and start by just appending it. So let's go ahead and make a list item. So the first list item is document.create element li, and we'll set li.className is important item, and then we'll set text to document.create text node first, and then we'll append li.append child text. So now there's a text node in the li, and then ul.append child li. So now there's a ul with an li with a text node, like so. So that's my unordered list so far. And I can go ahead and add this to the results box anytime. So let's do document.querySelector #results dot append child ul. So that adds my unordered list to the div box. Now if I want to add another list item to this ul, let's go ahead and make another list item. So here's a list item, another list item, and I'll set the class name on this one to important as well. And I'm going to make another text item. This one will be second. Actually, let's make this one third. And then we'll append our text to li, and then we'll append li to the children of ul. And there's our third. And to match this, let's go ahead and make it purple. So li.style.color is purple. So now it's purple. And then let's do one more. So let's go ahead and make another list item. This one is not important. Let's go ahead and make a text for fourth. Let's go ahead and append the text to the list item. Let's go ahead and append the list item to the UL. So there's our fourth item. But now I notice that I made a little mistake here because I forgot to insert the second item in the list. So I can't just use append child, because if I use append child, it's going to come in after fourth. What I actually want to do is use insert before this third item. So let's get the third item first, and that's going to be ul.childNodes ul.childNodes, and then the second one, li important item, this guy right here, that's third. So that's child node sub 1. That's the node I want to insert before. So I want to make a new node. Li is document.create element li. Text is document.create text node. Second, li.append child text. And then here I want to ul insert before. Here's the node I want to insert, and then the node that I want to insert it before is ul.childNodes sub 1. So you give it two arguments, the value to insert and the node you want to insert before, and it inserts second before third. So let's go ahead and set the class name for li to important item. Actually, like so. There we go. There. So now our style and markup for the first four items matches the HTML that we created before. That's basically your only two options for adding children to the DOM. And I'm also going to point out that if you don't specify a second value to insert before, it's just going to add it to the end. So let's go ahead and make yet another li and another text node. Let's make this one fifth. We won't set the class name for that, but we're going to go ahead and do ul insert before li. And I'm just going to leave the second parameter unset. Actually, I have to set null here, so I'll pass null in. And it added an item. Now li.append child text to add the text, and there's the fifth element. So insert before with the second argument null is basically just doing append child. So you really only have one choice for doing insertion. Now a real common case is when you want to insert an element as the first item of a list. That comes up all the time. And we know that if you try to get the first element of a node that doesn't have any children, you're going to get undefined. Actually, let's go ahead and say, let's make another ul. So var ul2 is document.create element ul. And if I say ul dot child nodes sub 0, that would be the first child of ul2. Sorry, that's undefined. And if I make another list item, and make another text item, so let's call this 0th. And I misspelled text there. Okay, so li.append child text. And now I'm going to call ul2 dot insert before I'm going to pass in my new li, and I'm going to go for ul2 dot child nodes sub 0. So the first time I try doing this, child node sub 0 is going to be undefined, and it's going to insert li before undefined, which will basically just append it. So here's my ul2 now, and it inserts it correctly as the first item. But if there is something on the list already, so let's make another item, li document.create element li. Text is document.create text node minus first li.append child text, and then ul2 dot, actually I'm just going to repeat this line. So here's my line from before, exactly the same line. This time ul2 has minus first and 0 as second. So if you want to add something to the front of a list, here's the code that does that. If you want to add it to the end of the list, you can just use append child or set this to null. And if you want to add it to the middle of the list, first you find the node you want to insert it before, and then you use insert before to do that. Sometimes you'll also want to remove nodes, and so there's a function for doing that as well. So let's say I want to get rid of this third node in the list. So I think that's still my ul node. So what I want to do is first get this node and then remove the child from the parent. So the call is going to be ul.remove child, and then the parameter I'm going to pass in is going to be this node right here. So that's ul.childNodes sub 2, 0, 1, 2. So if I do that, you'll see that the third item in the list vanished. And if I do this again, you'll see that the new third item vanished, and so on. So since this is an HTML collection, it's always going to get updated every time I change the contents of a list, which means that if you have a loop that's just looping through one item at a time, using a for loop or something like that, if you're changing the structure, that can make your for loop mess up. So you either want to convert the collection to an array before you start removing stuff from it, or you want to be aware that every time you remove an item from the list is going to get shorter. And so instead of going to the next item, you want to start from the beginning and keep removing items from the beginning.